Okay, so I've got my very basic, at the moment, render starting to come together in Revit. And so there's nothing special here. I've just rendered on a draft with interior artificial only, and I've adjusted the exposure slightly to make it a little bit brighter. And that's it. So now I want to take this to work in Photoshop. So I'm going to click Export. And then save that and make sure I know, of course, where I'm saving it. So this one will do. Oh no, actually, I'll even just make a new folder. Retail, let's just make it Retail Photoshop. So I'll even just leave the same file name, 3dview1, it's fine. Okay, so now into Photoshop, and I can open that up. And, sorry, Photoshop, there it is. Okay, so the first thing you need to think about whenever you're working with an image like this is what you're dealing with in terms of the resolution and the image size. So I deliberately left that on the default settings just so you could see what would happen. So I'm going to go now to the image menu and then look at the image size. And that's one of the most important settings in Photoshop. So if you're not using that in Photoshop, you need to start using it. And so again, under image size, and that will show you the image dimensions, probably in inches, because that's the way it comes from Revit, but you can easily change that to something that you may be more familiar with. So millimetres, you can see then it tells us the size in millimetres, or maybe centimetres is even easier to understand, 23 centimetres by 17 centimetres. So about the size of an A4 page, well, roughly. But you can see there as well that the resolution is only 96 dpi. So I'm actually going to change it to pixels. So then you can see the pixel dimensions. And that's really how programs like Revit that render, and really any rendering software, is always going to work with the image dimensions in pixels. And then that's how it achieves the resolution that you're after. Now, in the past, you would have had to do a lot of calculations to get the right resolution. And, well, do you know what the resolution should be for print? Exactly, yeah. So we want 300 dpi. So this option here, resample, is going to add in pixels if I just change that 96 to 300. And I'll just show you, actually, if I change it to 300. See how it's changing the pixels, it's increasing the pixels. But it's not really going to improve the quality of this image. It doesn't know how to add in detail. And I'll just show you actually if I click OK and then zoom back out, it's not really going to look any better. So there's no trick to adding resolution or detail after it's been rendered, really. You need to do that at the rendering stage. So I'll go back to image size, or in fact I'll just undo that and then go back and again just look at image size again. It's really helpful. And this time I'll turn resample off. And then if we go back to resolution and change that to 300 now, it'll change the width and the height accordingly. We'll go back to pixels, and why can't I go to pixels there? I know because it's on resample, that's right. I'll just change it to millimetres so you can see, or centimetres. So 7 centimetres by 5 centimetres, obviously a lot smaller than it was before, but that's simply because, in a way, it's brought the pixels closer together. So instead of having 96 dots per inch, we've now got 300 dots per inch, but in total, we've got the same number of pixels. So it's squashing those pixels down into a smaller area, basically. And that's not what we want. We want 300 dpi, but we want the 300 dots per inch to be spread over the same area as I had before. So how do we do that? Back into Revit, we've got to set that first. So here you can see, if it's on screen, that's where that 96 dpi actually comes from. It's a screen resolution. And then you can see that it's telling us 936 by 702 pixels. And notice then, as you zoom, those numbers change. So it might not have been obvious to you until now, but the screen option basically uses the pixels you can see on the screen to set the resolution of your image, of your rendering. Oh, that's another thing. I'll get to that in a second. That's for quality, but it works in a different way. So yeah, so both these things, you're thinking the right way, because quality and what we're looking at now with the resolution, they both affect the quality. But with Revit and a lot of rendering programs, they break it down with resolution as one setting and then the other things all together in quality. So again, with screen resolution, it's a fairly rough way of setting the pixel dimensions, or the resolution is pretty much the same thing. So we don't want that. We want to set it to what we want and control it. So instead of leaving it on screen, it's really important that you choose printer. Then you've got control, because firstly, if I click show model, you can select the image border, like that's your crop region, just the edge of the render or the perspective, and then you go to size crop to set the width and the height. Okay, so you can see there, I know it's a bit hard to read, but it's 150 by 113, and sorry, I forgot to take your screens over, didn't I? So I'll just do that, sorry. Okay, so again, so 150 mil by 113 mil. So let's say we want this to take up most of an A4 page. How big's an A4 page? Kind of, yeah, get close, but yeah. 210 by 297. So 210 mil, yep, high, let's say landscape, but yeah, by 29.7, yeah. Okay, so we want to be a little bit smaller than that. So we've got a white border around the edge, so if I select that border, I'm going to go to size crop. And then it's really important, if you're just trying to change the width and the height, and not try to change what's inside the view, change it to scale. Don't leave it on field of view. You've got to go to scale there, and then if I change the width or the height, they're locked. So if I change one, the other one is going to change. In other words, they're related or relative. So if I make the width, let's say 250 mil, 251, it's fine. If I click over to the right, to the height, it's 188, and that's obviously less than 210, so that should fit on an A4 page fairly well. Maybe I'll just go down a little bit, so I get a bit more of a border, so maybe I'll just go down to 175, and that will again adjust my width in proportion, and so that's now 233, which will easily fit, of course, into a 297 wide A4 page. And so then, just keep an eye on the settings over here. So at the moment it still says 150 by 113, but as soon as I click OK, it's going to plug in the 233 by 175. And then you'll see, more importantly, it's going to add pixels, because it uses the dots per inch setting, so the 150 dots per inch are now spread over a larger area. If you then go to 300 dpi, which we've been saying is the resolution you should be going for, it goes higher still. So it's double in each direction. So double the width, double the height, which actually means it's 4 times the number of pixels. So it's 4 times the file size, 4 times the rendering time. But that's what you need for a 300 dpi image at A4. And do these numbers, or is anything that you use quite a lot that you can relate these numbers to? Well, I watch a lot of TV, so that's what I'm thinking of. And so I've got way too many TV screens almost every room in my house as a TV screen, as well as a bunch of other monitors and tablets, and normally about 5 screens going in every room. And So, any of you know what HD TV resolution is? You'd all see when you change channels, it tells you that 1080 comes up, 1080p or 1080i. Right, so that's HD resolution, is 1080 by 1920. So that's higher, what we're looking at there. So 2700 by 2000, roughly, is a little bit higher than HD resolution. And so, not long ago, you would have said, that's amazing. We're doing very high res there. But not anymore, because 4K now is kind of standard. And 4K is double that. So we're still not at 4K, but it's good just to have some sort of handle to relate it to. And again, so what we're looking at there is not far off HD resolution, but again, not quite at 4K. So that's 300. Now, with that number of pixels, it's going to take too long for me to render, so I'm going to take it back to 150, because it'll render much faster. And you can do that too. So you can start off with draft renders at 150, and then as you're more comfortable with the quality and how it's looking, you can increase the quality to 300 and just substitute that in Photoshop for the 151. This shouldn't take too long to render. And we can have a quick look at it in Photoshop and compare it, because it will be much better. So that one, obviously you can see, well, that's just the resolution I've been looking at. I'm not going to increase the quality too much more, because again, it's going to take too long for me to render. But I'd say for your early stage renders, you could easily go to medium, and it doesn't take that much longer than draft. And actually, one good tip I'll give you there with this rendering program in Revit, ART, if you go beyond medium, it's really difficult to set up. When you go to high and best, you're going to see it's quite a different output you get, and I don't think I wouldn't recommend using it at first. You'll see, you'll probably think it looks worse unless you go and tweak a lot of settings. So just go to medium. And in this case, though, I'm just going to stick to draft, because again, it's going to go faster. So now, so I can save that. So I'm going to export this again. I'm just going to say 3D view high res. So then again, I'll go and open that new one up. And let's just zoom in so they're similar size. Right, so that's just by the change in the resolution that you can see. You can hopefully see there's a lot more detail, and it's even, picked up reflections and things that just weren't coming up before, purely from the resolution. I haven't even changed the quality setting yet. So I'll put it onto medium and I'll leave that rendering. I'm going to switch over to Photoshop now and go a bit further with that. So here you can see, firstly we'll go to image and then image size again, and now just have a quick look at how that's working. And again, to get a good handle on how resolution works, I'd highly recommend that you turn that resample option off, then have a go at setting the resolution to what you want, which is again 300. Oh no, sorry, not 300. What is it? It's 150, because that's what I set in Revit, of course. And here I'm going to change this to centimetres so that you can see the size is what I set to that crop region back in Revit. So 233 by roughly 175. Okay, so it doesn't change the way it looks on the screen, but it will change the way it prints when you change that image size. So that does set your print size. So it's really important that you're comfortable with that. That's often the starting point for working on any image in Photoshop, making sure you've got the image size set to what you want. And again, you can increase the resolution later, that's fine. So now, let's have a quick look at the layers. So I've got a background layer there, and you can see it's locked. So I'll just show you a couple of little tricks with layers, because as you can probably see from that, what I was showing you from Alex on Grief's site, on layers, that's a big part of your work in Photoshop, being able to work with and manage your layers and layer things up. And you can see here, that's not even his selection of layers, they're the folders, and each of those folders would have a ton of layers in them. So you can see there how many layers are in each folder. And that's just a standard project of his. So that's really the key to it, using lots of layers and building up and stacking those layers on top of each other. So, to start working with your layers, you've got to have the layers panel up, and if you don't see it, on the window menu, you can just choose layers. So I'll choose it now, and it's going to take it away, but I'll go back to window and choose layers again, and it'll bring it back. So you make sure you find that tab for your layers. I might just bring it up a bit and make it easier to see, and I might just get rid of, I don't care about libraries right now, so I'll just get rid of that. And yeah, that'll do. So again, I've got my background layer, and you can see it's locked. You can unlock it, but I'm not going to worry about that because I want to copy that layer instead. And the easy way to copy a layer is to drag it down onto the new page button at the bottom, and that will duplicate it, and then I'm going to turn the background off. So that way I've got a copy of the original rendering behind everything else, and then I can make adjustments to this new layer, and if I need to, I can always go back to the original. So then, to adjust layers, before I start adding new layers on top of this, I want to adjust that new background copy, and I might even, rename that first. Oops. So I'll just double click there to rename it, and we'll call this background PS Photoshop. And then, again, to adjust layers, we've got a couple of different options. You'll see if you go to the layer menu, there are these things called adjustment layers. But I highly recommend that you maybe avoid using those to start with. They're really useful in certain situations, but also maybe a little bit more confusing than the other approach, which is to go to the image menu, and you'll see there you've got adjustments. And they both give you similar options. So adjustment layers, and some people just see this and think that's how you do it, and that's what they always do to adjust their layers. You notice we've got very similar options, brightness, levels, and so on, as you have under the image menu when you go to adjustments. The difference basically is that an adjustment layer works on all of the layers underneath, and that can be very useful, but again, it's not what I want to show you here. So instead, when you go to an image menu, adjustments, and you've got all those basic options. So often you wouldn't start here with exposure, but I'm going to because it's a rendered image that's been rendered photographically. So using the exposure control, you can adjust the brightness further, similar to the way you do it in Photoshop, Revit. Gamma correction, I think I showed you as well before. Clearly always good things to check, and see if you can get the brightness levels that you want. Probably we've got some overexposed areas there that are going to be difficult to correct, but I'll just try and make it a little bit better. And, well, actually maybe a bit brighter still. And so you can see there we've got some very bright areas, and also it's looking very yellow or orange. I'll correct that too. So again, back to the image menu and then adjustments, and now I'll go to levels, and that's not a really useful one. So here you've got the mid-tones essentially, and then you've got the top and the bottom clamps really. So these control the minimum and the maximum brightness, but in this case it's not going to solve my areas where they're overexposed. So here all I can really do is again just try and make it look a bit nicer, but I'd have to really do some work to get these really bright areas fixed, probably re-render after adjusting my lights. But the other main issue is the overall temperature. So again, under the image menu and then adjustments, you have well, there are a few options to adjust it, but a really good one is the photo filters. So this gives you a bunch of presets based on photographic filters. This is a warming filter, which is just going to accentuate the problems that I've got because it's already too warm. So I'll go down and instead try a cooling filter, and you can see that's probably going too far and taking out too much warmth. But it's definitely an improvement. but we'll try some of these others, they might be better. You also have the colours, which again work in a similar way. So the blue colour there works in a similar way to the cooling filter, and that's actually pretty good, I think. So you can always turn the preview on and off to check to see the original, and then with the adjustments. And yeah, that blue one often does work pretty well, but again, the cooling filters kind of similar. And then you've got the density, which can affect the strength of that filter as well. So then maybe I'll quickly show you how to do some basic rendering. And it's very manual, that technique. So say you want to render just one or two of these surfaces. Maybe we'll look at, I'm going to look at the side of one of those shelves, but there are a few of them. So maybe I'll look at one of these straight shelves. That's an easy one. So, okay, so I've got this nice, easy to select surface. And so I want to render that with a different material, the side of that shelf. So I'll click the button down here to make a new layer, a new page down the bottom of your layer panel. And then maybe I'll just call that shelf render or something, so I know what it is. And then to select that area, well, I'll ask you, how would you try and select that? Exactly, yeah, that's the easiest way. So doing a marquee or some sort of rectangular selection is fairly easy there. What a lot of people do, I notice, if they're new to Photoshop, is try and get the program to do it for them and use tools like Magic Wand. And here, well, it's not doing anything because I've got a new layer. So I'm going to just turn on sample all layers up the top, and then again try to pick, and it's trying to pick similar colours, and you can see there it's bleeding out and selecting far too much. I'm going to change the tolerance back to, let's say, 10, and then just try again, and you can see there it's pretty close to the area I want, but still not quite right. Hold down Shift, I can keep clicking on more points that add to my selection, and eventually I might get something similar to the shape that I'm after. But it's a long way of going about it when, again, you can just use that rectangular marquee selection instead, and that's going to give us something pretty close. And then if you've got something that isn't a rectangle, you can of course just go to the polygonal lasso tool here, and I'll just start again. So this one, you can just click points. And so it's probably the favourite of most people. Oops. So just pick points to define the area that you want to select. Oops. And so there you can see I missed one. So you can always just press Backspace to go back one step. Yeah, that's really handy here. And there we are. So now I can get my selection and render that. So there are many ways of adding colour and patterns to areas like this. Simplest way, and probably my favourite, is the brush tool, which is this one here, the one that looks like a brush. And with a stylus, it's a really fun tool to use, but even with the mouse you can do a lot. So when you're on the brush tool, you get this icon to show you the brush. Let me know if you don't see that. If it just comes up with the cross, that's a setting that you can change. And you want to be able to see that brush size. And so to adjust it, you can simply right click, and you can see then this slider for the size, and you can see there I've got a bigger brush. And then you've got the setting for the hardness. Oh, sorry, yeah, so it's being left out. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll try again. Sorry, yeah, so it was, didn't notice it was nothing, it should be right now, yeah. Okay, so again with the brush tool, you've of course got the size of the brush, but you can see if you're adjusting it with the slider here, I mean it works, but you don't really see it until, oh yeah, I'll try again. Okay, so Here we go. Sorry, yeah, it's just being a bit slow waking up. Okay, hopefully that'll be working now. Okay, so again, it's that. Oh, it's still doing. Oh, here we go. So maybe this is the last. There we go. Oh, why is it doing? This software it's having a bad day. Okay, look, I'll stop and start again. Hopefully that'll fix it. Okay, let's just try again. Still not doing it? Yeah, so this software is terrible. I've always thought it's not really at the stage where we can use it, and I've recommended to IT many times just to not install it and we do everything on the projector. I don't think it's good enough. But anyhow, that's how all screen capture software is, unfortunately. So so again, that might be a bit better now, but there we go. Yeah, so yeah, there's nothing. So that's the network. There's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. Here we go. Really annoying. Okay, so yeah, so maybe just watch on the projector. But yeah, see, it's just a joke. Okay, so again, I've got my brush. Luckily, it's a simple thing I'm showing you there. The slider, of course, adjusts it. But do any of you know the shortcut?
Square.
Exactly. Square brackets. Yes, good. Yes, yeah, you can tell them the Photoshop users. So let's go back and undo that. Okay, so square brackets on your keyboard, much easier to change the size because you can, of course, see it interactively straight away as you're changing the square brackets on your keyboard. The square brackets. Yeah, just above the enter key, usually. So that's a great thing. And then the other setting, though, makes a difference as well. So the hardness there. At the moment, that's on 0. And just so you can see how it works, I'll make the brush a bit bigger. And I've got my two colours there, black and white. So if I click to start painting, we've, of course, got a soft edge. Whatever, paint splotch or whatever it is, the colour. And then if I right click and go and take the hardness, well, let's go full 100% hardness, and we're going to get a hard edge circle. So then anywhere in between, of course, we'll get increasing softness on the edge of the brush. So that's all there is to it. It's got those two main settings for your brushes, when they're, especially when they're just a round brush. Now there are probably millions of brushes out there in the world. The ones that are loaded are really good. So you've got all these pre-loaded brushes you can use to get different effects, and you can do watercolour and all sorts of amazing things. When you get into it, it is just a super powerful thing to be able to use all these amazing brushes. But for now, I'll just stick with the circular one, and yeah. So that's just, of course, with a single colour. To change the colours, you can, of course, just click on this colour swatch, and I won't give you my spiel about RGB, because I'm sure you've all heard it before. Red, green and blue are your primaries, or cyan, magenta, yellow, however you want to think about it. And I will just tell you one thing. If you see on trivia shows, when they ask you what the primary colours are, and it just drives me insane, the answer is always red, yellow, blue. And it's so wrong that it's not worth, doing too much about it. But I've seen it so many times in the last few weeks. On the Chaser, they had a question about, red, blue, and what's the other primary colour? You're going to say yellow, aren't you? And then there was another one as well that I was watching that did the same thing. And I reckon the contestants could take legal action about that, because technically it's just wrong to say that red, yellow and blue are the primaries. But that's the last I'll say about it. So again, red, green, blue, or cyan, magenta, yellow, and you can make any colour. And then, of course, paint with whatever you like. So So that's a single colour. But then you can also apply patterns. And an easy way of doing that is to go to the Edit menu and just choose Fill. And so then you can see we've got that drop-down list where you can choose pattern. And you've got quite a few predefined patterns. You can easily load in a lot more than this. And so the nice thing about patterns in Photoshop is that they're procedural. In other words, they use a formula to generate the pattern, which means they're generally seamless. So they'll repeat infinitely. And there are quite a few interior material type finishes, or for for buildings. So again, if we go back and just have a look at the patterns there. Where's the fifth one? How can I see it? Oh, yeah, here we go. So I've got the script. So if you go to the script there, then you've got this brick fill option. I'll just go back to the. That's right. If we go to brick fill, that should do it with the dialog box. There we are. So that'll repeat the pattern using the brick script, if that makes sense. So I'll go back and do that again, edit, and then, sorry, I'm using shortcuts. So we'll go back just to the simple one of these, and then with brick fill, there we are. So you can change things like the scale, you can change the size, the spacing, and it's similar to those procedural patterns I showed you briefly with rendering software. And again, because it's using a formula or a procedure to make these patterns, there's no tiling, and you can do pretty interesting things with them. So you've got all these different ways of filling in, and but the important concept there is that I've selected that area with my marquee, and so it's not going to work outside of that. If I go and keep, painting, it only goes up to the edge of that selection. So I've got my pattern, and then maybe I want to have a bit of shading added to it. So again, I can use layers for that. I'm going to make another layer, and I'll call this Shelf Render Shadow. So a really nice effect that you can add to virtually any surface is an ambient shadow. So generally you can just do those with the brush tool. So again, it's just showing you that again. And I'll make the brush smaller, and I'll make it so it's not too hard. Maybe we'll try about there. And then I'm going to set the colour to black. So I'm just doing a little bit of shading along the edge of the floor there, pretty much. Oh, so just right click. Yeah. There is a shortcut to change the hardness, but I forget what it is. I know there is one. Oh, this one, yeah, just right click. Yeah. So I've just basically painted black along the edge there, and maybe I'll just make it a bit uneven as well, so it looks a bit more realistic. But that's far too dark. That's fine though when you're doing shadows, because if you do it on its own layer, right, so we can turn that on and off, you can see it's on the layer by itself, and then you can use things like the opacity setting there to reduce the brightness of it. And there's another great option with shadows, and that's to change the layer to multiply. And then when you adjust the opacity, it basically it's adjusting the brightness of the image behind this layer. So yeah, so you can see there we can get it, to be a bit fainter. It's a bit weird actually with this pattern, but so maybe instead of multiply, I'll try one of these others. And so one of the dodge maybe, or even overlay. No, not so overlay, the opposite one. And look, to be honest with these, what I'll often do is just start on, say darken or multiply, and then just use the down arrow to flick down and see if any of the others are going to do a better job. A lot of them are very similar. So that's the one I'm after. Luminosity, interesting, and these lighting options as well. Probably not the best example of a shadow, so I'll get a person and do a shadow for them in a minute, because that's going to be probably a bit clearer. If I had a bigger surface, this would look a lot better, but again, because there's only that edge there, we can sort of see how having that little shadow there, I know it's a subtle thing, but it does help to tie things together. And you'll see that the things that are rendered will already have it. It's subtle, but there is shading that's connecting the surface of the wall to the surface of the floor. And you can even paint those and add it to the rendering, so you can really see it there, those nice shadows in the corners. And so sometimes just painting that in over here can be helpful. So maybe I'll just do that. So I can't paint there while this is still selected. So I'm just going to go to select and deselect, and then I can paint anywhere. So now I'll just have a go at, well actually maybe I'll do a new selection, because here it's nice to have the wall still with the edge there to stop the shadows, you know, going onto the floor. So let's do a selection to get part of that wall surface. Yeah. Okay, and then again I'll just go back and try painting in some nice soft shadows, maybe with a smaller brush. And what are we on? Darken, I'm going to set, that's right. Oh yeah, it's just very subtle. Oh yeah, still the same layer, because it's all for shadows. This one, so yeah, I'm going to use the same layer. So yeah, so it's called shelf render shadow. Probably what I should just change that to. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But I'm happy for that, because they're all the same thing. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, you put it on separate layers. So now I've just brought the opacity up, and I'll change it back to normal, just so that I can see a bit more clearly what I'm painting. Still not there yet, because I've also changed the colour. So I'll just set the colours back to, oh yeah, that's black. Why is that not coming? Oh yeah, still got the opacity. So there, I'll bring the opacity back up, and what's going on there? Normal, normal. Hardness, that's alright. Oh, because I'm not on the right tool, I'm on the brush history tool. That was clever. They've got similar icons. This is the one I should have had. So, okay, so I've done a few silly things there. I've painted in with the brush history tool, which does something completely different. And I want to go back a few steps. Photoshop, like many Adobe programs, has a crazy way of doing undo. No other program's this crazy, but Photoshop, you know, the Adobe guys just can't admit they're wrong, and they've stuck with their crazy system that no one else likes, but they like it for some reason. Because when you undo in Photoshop, it doesn't undo. If you go and undo again, it undoes the undo. So you just keep going round and round, undo, redo, undo, redo. It's mad. It's just mad. There's no other word for it. If you go down and step backward, that will undo and keep undoing. So that's the way you undo in Photoshop. So you can undo, step backward, and you'll keep going back. So that's pretty tedious. So instead, you can go to the window menu and see you've got the history panel, and that will give you a list of all the steps, and you can easily just go back. So there's my history brush that I was using, and I didn't want that. So here we go, I did that a few times, and we'll go back, and there we are. So the name change is where I want to go to. So that's a big tip for Photoshop. The undo is unusual, but you can undo the way other programs do and keep going back more than one step, as long as you know about that option to either step backward or use the history, and you can go back as far as you want. Does that make sense? Have you ever had that problem with undoing in Photoshop? Yeah. Oh, well this is... Maybe, yeah, well this is the latest version. Yeah. Maybe on a Mac or something they've got it as a default now. Yeah. Yeah. Ah, they finally changed it. Yeah, maybe they. Yeah. Yeah, there must be a setting for it. Yeah, but it should be the default. I don't know why they don't. You know, it's mad. Why would you ever want to have it undo and then redo and then there's no reason for it. No? You don't. But why? Why? Why would you want to? Yeah, but why wouldn't you just have it redo? There's Control Y and Control Z in every other Windows program, and it's easy. And then there's no. I don't know. Anyhow, I think there's a reason every other program does it differently. And Photoshop's the only one that does this, as far as I know. So there, I'm painting with the brush finally. So, but again, I'll just undo those steps and paint in the shadow that I really wanted, which again, I'll just do, well, that's horrible, so I'll undo that and just try and do it a bit better. And another tip I can give you, if you're doing things that you want to keep, especially with the brush tool, let go. And then, so if you've done something that you really like, so I like that little bit of brushwork that I've done, don't try and continue and do more painting in one click, because then if you do make a mistake, say at the end of that nice brush stroke, and you have to undo it, it undoes the whole thing. So paint in steps, it makes it much better. So there you can see I made a mistake, but not a problem, because when I undo, it's just going to undo that last little bit, not the whole line that I've been trying to paint. So that's something I've noticed really frustrates me when I'm painting. There we go, another mistake, but not a big deal because I can just undo now because I've been painting in small steps. So it's kind of the opposite of the way you draw when you're drawing by hand. You're trying to do long, continuous brush strokes. But with Photoshop painting, again, little steps like this will definitely be easy for you again. So that's another mistake, but I can easily just undo that last little bit. There we are. So maybe there you can see it, when I bring the opacity back, already was down, and I'll change it to multiply, and again, maybe even make it less. And then, so there maybe I want to just tidy up that little bit. I know I'm getting picky here, but just to give some better ideas about how to edit things. If I go to the eraser tool, that's one way of just taking parts off that layer. We'll get into masking later, but that's probably enough for the brush tool. And so I'll again just deselect there, and so again, it's just those little things. I know it's subtle, but it does give a lot more depth to your renders. Anything that's 3D with lighting can benefit from those sorts of shadows. But then probably another thing that you'd be doing even more than trying to add in rendering of textures, that can be a really important thing, but then probably the most important thing you need to do in Photoshop to add to your renders is overlay new things. So I'm just browsing here, so just in case you missed it, I've just gone to open, from the file menu, and then on the P drive, if we go to interior design, there's the material images folder. So I've got all sorts of textures there that are really good for rendering as well. Maybe I'll just quickly show you. So if you want to do brick, so maybe I'll have to show you this later, but you can make a pattern in Photoshop using these images, and that's a really helpful technique. And that would, let us put this brickwork onto a surface, similar to what I've done there. But then going back to the material images folder, and then further down there's a people folder. Now it's not the greatest selection of people, but it's enough to get us started. So we've got there some people, some of them are cut out, some are not. And it might seem like there are quite a few there, but that's really nothing. I've got in my own collection in my office 100 times that, and I still end up going and searching for more online all the time. So if you want to do that, show you some good sites. Immediate entourage. yeah, is pretty good. They've made it a bit harder to get the free things. Used to have a lot of really good free things here, but I think now they don't have as much. But there are other sites as well, but this one's still, I think, okay. There we are. So the nice thing about these is that they are all cut out. You can find the cutout ones. It makes it much easier. So I'll just try and find one that's at a similar angle to our rendering. Who do I want? Yeah, I think these ones are all free, but I'll have to check when I go. Better stop picking those ones. Let's get some. Yeah, actually, so this one, I think you've got to be logged in. Now, you can, I think, save the image directly from here as well, so I'm just going to try that. Save image as, by right-clicking on it, and of course, you know, save image as. And so I'll just test it out, and then if it works, I'll stick it on the P drive. Okay, so I'll start back into Photoshop by opening one that I know is working. This one here, Man Cutout. Notice there's two. I've made one there because the original one, it was called Man Cutout, but it wasn't actually cut out. So the one to the right, you can tell it's the one that is cut out because it's got the checkerboard background. Checkerboard means transparent. So there we are. So he's already cut out. So that's one from the P drive. And I'll go and open the other one and see if it's also working. Where did it go? Did it even get saved? Try that again. Oh, downloads. Okay, it's just sticking documents. Okay, so they're protected content. Okay, yeah, had a feeling. All right, so they've made it harder, and I think you need to log in, or let's say download for free. There we are. So you get the low res one for free. There we are. So yeah, do you need to log in? I'm not sure. I don't use these guys for the paid ones. I use other ones that are probably a little bit better. But yeah, so you've got to sign in. I'm not going to worry about that. But it's free to register and sign in. I've got an account. So we don't know what the username is. So that's worth looking at. But then if you try even just searching for, say, cutout people. And then a good trick there is just to go to images, and you get a lot of them just come up, and you can usually just click on it there, and in that, you know, Google search that it's giving you, you can right click and then save image as, and that usually will work. So I'll save this, and again, if it's working, I'll make it so you can get to it. Oops. Okay, so again, it's going to open to start, and that's a really good tip. When you are working with any of these files, it's really helpful to open them first, make sure they're working the way you think they are, or get them to work the way you want them to, and then simply copy and paste. So there are many ways of moving things from one file to another, and you can, you know, move individual layers and other things like that. But at first, the easiest way is to simply open the file you want to get things from, select it all. So on the select menu, you can choose all, or Control A on the keyboard does the same thing. Go to the edit menu and choose copy, or Control C is the shortcut. So Control A, then Control C. Then go to the file you want to bring it into, and then either go to the edit menu and choose paste, or Control V. That's the easy way. So that will make a layer for you, right? So we can control that by itself. And then to change the size, again, there are many ways of doing this, and you can do it in advance, but probably it's easiest at first just to transform it using Control T, or on the edit menu, choose Free Transform. again, Control T. And to scale it in proportion, you just need to hold down Shift and then click and drag on the one of the corners. So you can see that it's stretching down, but he's of course going down below the space, so I'm going to keep moving him up as I stretch. So let go of Shift before you try to drag, but again, make sure you're holding down Shift when you're dragging to change the size. Yeah, well that's right, yeah, you've got to find some sort of visual reference, and it can be hard in perspective because, you know, if he's standing here, you know, as opposed to standing there, he's got to be a different size. So he's going to get bigger, of course, as he gets closer to the foreground, and maybe we'll do a few copies of him. There are some old principles of drawing that you can apply here, like the fact that if you know where the horizon line is, generally you want the eyes to go through the horizon, but that's not always the case because you're technically, well, the horizon here would be about there, and if he's taller than the person taking the photo, then his eyes would be a little bit above. Yeah, again, you want to always try to think about where the horizon line would be, and you can see there, these are sloping down, so the horizon's actually down here. So his eyes are going to be a bit above the... Yeah, well that's a good trick. So yeah, what you can do is just, so I'm going to go back to draft here, and then put it back to, well I'll leave it on 150, but, so it doesn't take too long. So I'll just put in a dummy person. In other words, a person that I don't really want for the rendering, but I just want to use them to get the size. So I don't have to set it up and work it out myself. So I'll get the RPC male and stick him in there. Oh, so it's just in the regular library. There's an entourage folder. Yep. So you've just got RPC male and RPC female. So I'll get the female as well. And stick her over here. So then back into my perspective view, and I can see them. She's the one sitting down, so I'll get a different one. And then if you go to realistic, you can see how they look rendered. So maybe I'll drag him forward a little bit, and I might even do some copies. So I'll hold down Control while I drag to do a copy, and I can even change, well it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to use them, but I'll show you can change them to the different people. They're all boring corporate guys, but, oh, no, Alexi's not wearing a suit. So there we are. So that's really just to get an idea of the size and the, you know, mostly the height that they should be. But again, they're different heights as well. So Jay's obviously shorter than Lauren, but again, if you have a few of them, it still gives you a good reference. Well, it's just because they're very sort of ugly people, and not ugly, you know, in person, but just the way that the style is not great for design drawings. So I'm just using them as a reference. I won't have them in the render, but it gives you a couple of things. I mean, obviously you get the size, which is by itself is helpful, but also the reflections, and then even the shadows, which aren't coming up too strongly here, but we would get the shadows too. Unfortunately, they're in shadow, so I'm just going to stop that one. I'll move at least this guy back, and at least then he's going to, because he's standing under the light, have a more defined shadow. Here we are. Now, if you do want to use them, you'll see most of them will be floating a little bit. So a little tip there is that you can move them down. I think it's about 30 or 40 mil. Just in properties, you can type in the offset to move them down, and then the feet tend to touch the floor properly. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to export as well, and I'm just going to call this 3D view temp or something. So back into Photoshop, and I'll open up that new file, and then I'll give you some time in a minute to try all these things. So, where was I? This one. Okay, so again, I'm just going to copy and paste all of this into the file I've been working in. So again, edit, select all, edit copy, go back to the original file, and so I want this to go under my other layers. So I'm going to go to the background PS layer, and then choose paste. So I'll go on top of that background PS layer, but under my other layers with the people. So then you can see, yeah, so I was a bit tall, this guy, so I'm going to go back to that layer that has that guy, and then Control T to transform, and I can then just adjust his size to match the person that I do have. So he's a bit taller, so that's, I think, fine if he's a bit bigger. Okay, and then I can turn that overlay off. So maybe we'll get another person just to repeat the same thing. So again, select all, edit copy, and then in my new file, edit paste, and it's gone and oh, is that the wrong one? What am I doing? Okay, so let's just undo that. Did I do? Copy. Oh, I know what's happening. Oh, so I did show you that. Yeah, right. Yes, okay, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, that's me being stupid. Okay, so, I've opened the wrong one. Yeah, so, yeah. It's yeah, that's right. That's like a checkerboarding. So I should delete that file because that's just a terrible thing. They flattened. Yeah, they flattened one that was cut out, basically. Yeah, I don't know why they. I think you wouldn't. I don't know why you would do that on purpose. Yeah, so I'll go and open up the right one, and yeah. So that one. Let's just get rid of the other guy because he's broken. This one is the right one. There we are. Okay, so Control A, Control C, and then Control V and Control T. So again, you can see there, I mean, that basic principle I was talking about, the eyes pretty much are all in line with the horizon, but the taller people, again, are going to be above, and the shorter people below, of course. So that's just to do the cutouts. Shadows are a little bit more involved, but I can show you one little trick, and then maybe I'll give you some time and come back to do some more after that. So a nice little thing you can do with any layer is right-click and then go to Select Pixels, and that'll select everything on that layer, which is a really easy way of just selecting the whole layer, basically, or everything that's on the layer. You know, if you're trying to use Magic Wand and all those other things to get all these different colours, it's not as easy. So I've got the selection that's, of course, the shape of that person. So now I'm going to make a new layer and drag it under the person's layer. So I'll change it there so you know, back to the man in the blue suit. And this is going to be the man, blue suit, shadow. Okay, now there are automatic drop shadows and lots of options like that for things that are that are simple, but for people and things like that, the drop shadows don't really do the job. So instead we're just going to manually change the shape of this selection, and before I can change the shape of it, I've got to fill it with something. If I try to change it, let's see if I go and just try to transform that, it's going to tell me it can't because it's empty, even though I've got a selection. So I'm just going to fill it. Now again, you can use the paint bucket to do this, but the paint bucket does some different things, so sometimes it's easier if you just want to fill something in, again, just to go to the fill option under edit. There's an option there just to choose black from that menu. So it is black, but we can't see it because it's underneath the other layer. And I'll get rid of the layer with the other people. So I'm going to again just go to transform, Control T, and then bring it down, and you can see then that we've got the shadow underneath. And then you can also skew. So the shortcut for skew is, I always forget this one. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go and bring it down a bit, and I'll do it from the menu. Anyway, so under edit, you can go and choose skew, and that way you can change the angle of your shadows. And here we wouldn't really have a very defined shadow anyway, so it's probably not the best example, but just so you can see basically how you can do it. So you can definitely get, you know, fairly basic shadows that way. There's lots of other techniques, and if you have a look at that Alex O'Greath website, he's got some brilliant tutorials that go into more detail, techniques you can use that are similar to this to add shadows and work with people generally, but using very similar approaches. So I can move that around, and it's under his feet, so it's not going to be a problem if I don't get it exactly in line with the edge of his foot, because it's underneath. And again, Control T. Actually, do you remember the shortcut for changing to skew? Is it right click? No, maybe on a Mac that might work. Fortunately, yeah, Apple sometimes they give you better options. Yeah. Well, you can, so right clicking here does work, yeah, so that's probably a good option. Yeah, right click and then skew, and then you can go back to free transform. Yeah, that's probably good. There is an option key, but yeah, so yeah, so skew there, that's good. So there we are. So we can get something that looks like a shadow. It's not technically perfect, but it's fine usually for things like this. And then again, use multiply and opacity to change the brightness of that shadow. Oh, well, I'll show you now. So it's going to be a lot clearer with this black shadow. So I'll just deselect so it's easier to see. Okay, so if it's on normal, well, it's hard to actually see it very well here even, but okay, so essentially multiply. Oh, go away. Just trying to get it to zoom. There we are. Okay, so multiply. In theory, it uses the colour values of what's underneath. And so that black is decreasing the brightness of that concrete material when it's on multiply. So that's the basic principle, and sometimes you won't notice a huge difference between this and the normal mode. But it's good practice to use multiply essentially for shadows, because you want to see the colour of the whatever underneath, pretty much. But with opacity, you're also going to get that. That's changing the transparency. It's probably clearer as well with multiply when you're starting to use other colours, also other shades. So to soften the edge of the shadow, you could go and use grey. Okay, so if I just make that less bright, maybe 30 or something to get it grey, and then I can paint the edge of the colour, the edge of the shadow. Oops, that's too big. To soften it a bit. Right, so that's with multiply with normal. There we go, you can see then what the difference is. So there, because it's on normal, we just see the grey colour and then the black. And when it's got the opacity, you can really see. But then when it's on multiply, you can see how it's just giving us a lighter version of that, whatever's behind it. And again, with the opacity, it's going to be a bit clearer. Right, so that's hopefully, yeah, an easier way of seeing what multiply does. Right, so it gets shadows like that, and again, the key is just managing it all by having all of those different things on different layers. And you can do amazing things with Photoshop. It is time consuming though, so I don't want to spend too long making you watch me do these things. And again, I keep reminding you. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, yes, that's a good thing. I'm glad you reminded me. Okay, so yeah, that's a good thing because it's related to what I just showed you. Okay, so we've got the render there, and I'm just going to hide those people because I don't want them. So VH is what I did to hide them, or if you right-click and hide into category, of course, same thing. And then I'll go to render, and I'm going to set the background to transparent. Right, and then I'll just render again. So notice how now we've got the checkerboard behind the window. So I set the background, so yep, sure. So just in the render settings, you've got this background option here, and then you set that to transparent. And that's it. Okay, so I'll just save that again, export. And so notice how here, it's got to be a PNG. Can't be a JPEG. So now back again into Photoshop, and I'll go and open up that new rendering. So again, Control A, Control C, back to my working file, make sure I know which layer I'm on before then Control V to paste. And so then I'll turn the original rendering layer off. And so then to put in the background, I'm going to go and open up yet another file. So I might just close some of the other files that I had open just to make it less confusing. Don't need those to be open anymore. Even that one. And so now I can just go and open and find a background image. So again, in that material images folder, you've got a couple of background folders. So the one with backgrounds, plural, has a little bit more in it. Oh, I thought it did. Sorry, I made those. I should know. Background. Is that the one with more? Yes, that's the one with more. But again, if you search online, you'll find a lot more than this. So let's just get something that might make sense, though, for what you're doing. Well, there's nothing really there, is there, for an indoor? So, look, an easy thing would be to search retail facades or something. Or what about shopping centres? Here we go. I want something that's fairly like a one-point perspective. Okay, so it's not perfect, but maybe, oh, actually maybe this will do. Yeah. That'll do. Okay, so I'll save that image. And again, open it. Which one was it? This one. Yep. Okay, so again, Control A, Control C, back to another file. Again, making sure I'm on the right layer. So here I want to be under my new layer, which is layer 4. So I'll just select the layer underneath that and then Control V. And there it goes in behind, and then again Control T to stretch it. And make it the size I want. So hopefully you can find some better background images than this, but that's the job for now, I suppose. Yeah, and so there you can adjust the opacity. Also, the fill option can be used to work in a similar way, and then you can of course use adjustments, and that can really help to just get that blend in nicely. And then you might also do a few others, so probably here fade it out. Lightness is a good one sometimes for that. And of course, exposure, all those things, you can just play around with those. Gamma really helps with some photos. Yep. So that should give you most of the things you need to get to make adjustments to the renders. I can come back to it and show you some more later, but then to do things like the facade, you might actually render it or just do most of the work in Photoshop initially to create a rectangular image. And then you can apply that as a texture to a surface in Photoshop. If you've got a big facade or a big area of glass or something and you want to put a decal on that, you can do that too. Yeah, it's a bit more involved when you're making things from scratch in Photoshop. But you can get some amazing results. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look, technically, yes. So, yeah, of course. In real life, that's how shadows are. Yeah, you can do all of that. That's right. So the way it works, in real life, shadows essentially are more defined, closer to the object, and then they get more blurred and less defined as they go further out because the light is sort of going around the edges, if that makes sense. And yeah, so yeah, if you want to be totally realistic, you can. You've got to think about the purpose of your drawings. It's not necessarily to show perfect shadows and perfect people. The design's the important thing, and the rendering of the materials is probably a lot more important than that. But yeah, technically that is correct. You can get much better, more perfect shadows. And if you read the technical books on V-Ray, they've got, I'm not joking, 2 or 3 chapters in the V-Ray Complete Guide. I've read them. There are 3 chapters just on that, just on blurring the edges of the ends of your shadows and how they, yeah, it's insane. The level of control you can get. But, I don't think, it's really necessary anyway to do that. And yeah, if I was doing it, I mean that's with 3D rendering. If I was doing it in Photoshop, I just don't think I've got enough, time in my life to do that. Yes. Oh, it's very difficult because they're obviously photographed with the light from probably a different direction, yeah. But again, you can live with it, and that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Or just accept the fact that most people probably aren't going to notice. If it's not too far out, you can, so here, this guy, he's got the light coming from this side. But in this space, we've got light probably coming from all different directions. So, and light can be a bit unpredictable as well. So it could be that there's a light here that maybe picks up his face. Or maybe people would, just assume that that's the case, even though in reality it's not there. And this guy, the light's coming from the right as well. So he probably should mostly be in shadow. But again, you'll get away with it most of the time. Yes, yeah, whenever you're ready.